welcome to Healthcare in Hawaii. I'm Josh Green, your host, Senator from the Big Island, work with the Hawaii IPA and as an emergency room doctor. Today I'm joined for part two of a really interesting conversation with a health expert here in the state of Hawaii. I'm joined by Reg Baker, who is Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer at HMAA, prominent CPA in our community, leader at the Chamber, terrific guy, a great deal of knowledge. And we spoke about macroeconomics, so in healthcare. It's good to see you again.
Good to be back.
Reg, you're a terrific wealth of knowledge. We went over some really interesting points about the impact of the national experiment with the Affordable Care Act. We talked about healthcare costs. We've talked about so many different things. But today we have an opportunity, at your advice, and I think it's very smart, to talk about more of the micro system of healthcare in our state. Why don't we start by unpacking this a little bit? When you say the microeconomics of healthcare, what do you mean?
I think just diving down into the local aspects of providing health care in Hawaii. Whether it be in a metropolitan area or in a rural area, underserved area, what are the challenges at the state level and the provider level that's encountered in trying to provide quality health care?
And that's been kind of a frequent concern that we have. I come from the neighbor islands, and a lot of people will say, I can't find a doctor, I can't find a nurse. Mm-hmm. What's your perspective on that? Where are we with the provider population in our state?
This may not be politically correct, but I think it's getting worse before it's going to get any better.
Yeah.
I'm seeing more physicians talking about leaving the profession.
Yeah.
The challenges are great. The profits aren't as good as they used to be. Mm-hmm. I know that they just came out with this great survey and said that 8 of the top 10 highest paid professions in Hawaii are in healthcare, and that may be the case, but it's significantly down from what it was 5 or 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people, I think a lot of the professions, the providers that are out there, if you're over 50 or 55, 60 years old, you're beginning to give some serious thought about getting out of practice and moving on.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. I'm glad you bring that point up. I remember a statistic from a couple years ago, and it ran something like this, that the average healthcare provider in Hawaii was about 4 years older than the average healthcare provider in the mainland, which was to say our average age was closer to like mid-50s and theirs were closer to 50. So like you say, we could see a wave of retirement if people can't muster up the energy or business acumen to stick in business.
Well, and I think the youth, the younger ones that are coming out, are not particularly keen on going into some of the underserved areas. They have different values, that maybe some of the older practitioners had, and they're looking more at quality of life. They're looking at a better education system, something that may not be available out in some of these underserved or rural areas.
Yeah, that's complete. I can tell you from experience that's true. When I came to Hawaii at age 30, this was in the year 2000, I'm 46 now, I came and worked with the National Health Corps Scholarship, which paid my medical school loans back, which was terrific, and one of the best experiences of my life. However, I came in, I was single, I didn't have any debt because of that, and I was able to take essentially the lowest salary in the state to go and work in Ka'u. And it worked out for me because I didn't have a family, I didn't have a house, I didn't have any of those things. I didn't have children to educate, which is one of the big challenges. People want to have good schools around their kids. And then a few years passed after I did my service. Now I still practice on the Big Island, but I have to split my time between Oahu, of course, and Big Island. And I think had I come in as a 30-year-old, already married to Jamie, who's my wife, and already with a couple kids, and say with a lot of loans, I don't know how I would have practiced in a rural area.
More than likely you wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It would have been extremely difficult, if not impossible, to justify, giving up what you could have had here that would help with the wife and the children, to go there where there's very limited resources. It'd be tough.
And there's a lot to love about the rural areas. I mean, I love the teachers in the schools and the principals there and what have you, but sometimes you can't get your car fixed, or sometimes you just, you can't find other services like specialty services, and all of those things pile on. So I think you're totally right. The providers are, one, reluctant to go work in rural areas. Big Island, the economics are a problem. 51% of the individuals on Big Island are on Medicaid, which means that the economics, as you pointed out last show, just don't work for businesses in healthcare. They're going to have to be subsidized. But also, we're short on providers anyway. So if they have a choice, like I still work all my clinical time up in Javi or Kona, but a lot of people don't have that luxury of having their loans already repaid or what have you. And
You're very fortunate.
yeah, I wonder if that's not going to have to be part of the solution.
It'll have to be. I think there's 2 or 3 things that could be done that, and maybe we're doing a little bit of it now, but we need to be doing a lot more of it. But we touched on it a little bit the last, session that we had, but having, the PAs and EMPs maybe get more involved. They come in a different type of structure.
Right.
They may not have the same issues that, say, somebody who's gone through, 12 years of additional education to become a physician.
Yeah.
They'd have a different cost structure that they could maybe, a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant could provide some of that care. But you could also get into telemedicine a little bit more.
Right.
And provide some of the more specialty care, through telemedicine type applications.
Well, we just passed that, we do a lot of things at the legislature which even give me heartburn, and I sit in the legislature, but we did pass a bill this year mandating all the plans to cover, like they cover other services, telehealth. So I'm hoping that your vision, like on that issue, may come to pass, that maybe we will have centers of excellence, Straub, Queens, Kaiser's programs, but that they're able to reach out with those specialists and use either primary care people or ER people like me in the rural areas or nurse practitioners with that telehealth, with these extenders, so that we get the benefit of the extremely intense, highly trained individuals where there's a lot of them in Honolulu, a lot more.
I can't help but think that, for 50,000,
Yeah.
100,000 at the top end,
Yeah.
you could have a very sophisticated satellite type office that has an MP or a PA in there that's
Yeah.
got all the technology that the telemedicine can be done the way it needs. And that $100,000 investment in a rural community would provide you with most
Yes.
of the type of care that needs to be done out there.
I'm sure that's true, because look, the monies alone that you save from not having to travel, every time someone travels to Oahu, it's $500 to $1,000. I don't care what you say, between plane tickets and maybe a hotel and your
Rent a
extra
car
tests and all that
yeah.
stuff. If you can get basic follow-up, basic care, of course, there's always a need for a stethoscope on the chest, and some things are surgical, but there's no question that 95% of the healthcare that I've ever delivered could be delivered through at least some kind of relationship like that. And I would appreciate it. Okay, so that's one. Providers, practitioners, we have to have an expansion. You like telehealth. What about our hospitals, the local hospitals? How would you look at them? What's your assessment?
We have to somehow make them, I won't even use the word profitable, but more cost efficient. I think, I look at what's going on over on Maui, and there's a great opportunity over there to bring some very high quality health care
Yeah.
to the island. And it keeps bumping into roadblocks, and it's baffling to me why we're not able to come together and provide 130,000 people with good quality health care, letting, one obstacle that might benefit less than 1,000 people prevent that.
Yeah.
And, so I think, using that model on other islands, once we can get it to work on Maui,
Yeah.
I think could, address some of the facility issues that we've got.
It may happen. I think the sheer economics of our healthcare system, where our subsidy of HHSC, Hawaii Health System Corporation, for those out there who don't know that acronym, it's gotten pretty significant. It's over $100 million. And it's money well spent in the care of people, but if we could spend $50 or $40 million instead and have, whether it's Kaiser or HPH or Queens partnering, it seems to me it would be beneficial. For instance, give me your opinion of Queens taking over North Hawaii Community Hospital. Is that the kind of model that you think could work?
I think if we see patient outcomes improve, I think if we see additional services being provided and a better level of health care,
Yeah.
then yes.
Yeah, I think it's necessary. I mean, people, people in the neighbor islands already understand that if you have a severe problem, we're going to get you over to Oahu where there are trauma surgeons or neurosurgeons or super specialists. We all want that for our loved ones, our children,
course.
immediately. And I hate to ever have to transfer patients, but what's most important is someone get well. And I think that if we do establish centers of excellence and do a better job of providing the kind of hardcore bedrock essentials at our neighbor island hospitals, will prevent, first of all, many of those transfers. But when we need them, we'll be better fortified. And so I hope that this Queens experiment works. And I don't know what to tell you. I guess I should give people a little update. Today, we had special session, and the governor did veto the measure that would have provided resources to kind of bridge the impasse on the workforce in Maui. I'll be quite frank, I would have voted to override that veto. We didn't have a vote on it today. Instead, we're going to look at an amendment next week, and I think something has to be done. It's an imperfect situation. You were an executive. Would you support something like that in general?
I'd have to spend a little bit more time looking at the details of it. But I heard that it was an additional 40 million.
It was an additional 40 million that was proposed. I think right now he'd like to see a cap at 25 million to get people essentially severance so that they can move into the next model. You're pretty economically frugal, I would guess. But on the other hand, we want this system to at least be tried.
Well, we need to get the healthcare to the point where we're going to be proud of it on Maui. That's number one. If we could do it, if we have to do it for 40 million, then you do what you got to do. But I think that if we were to explore ways of maybe making it a little bit more economical, maybe even getting Kaiser to participate in some of the offset, there could be other options that we could explore and see if we could work something out. We've got basically 3 different parties involved. We've got the state, we've got Kaiser, we've got the union, but we can't forget probably the most important is the population on Maui.
Right.
And somehow there's got to be a compromise or a little bit of compromise on all different parties where nobody's happy, but it gets the job done.
I agree, because what I don't think some of those 3 parties realize, and I'll claim myself to understand this, is you can spend $25 or $30 million real quickly if you have some terrible outcomes on some people's health. If you really misdiagnose someone, or you don't have services available because you've had to downsize or close a unit or a ward, you could have a catastrophic lawsuit or changes in care. And so I think it's probably better to move forward. And this will provide a trial balloon to see what's next, whether it's Big Island or Kauai. I know that you've had thought about that. I think that we're going to have to get ready for at least some more innovation.
I think we do. I think we got to start getting creative and try to figure out a way to address some of these issues in a different way, because the old way just doesn't seem to be clicking anymore.
Right, yeah. The old way of just pure subsidies and no pressure to add new programs or to streamline programs in kind of a confederated state model, we limp along, I guess is the way to put it. And I'm not sure that the neighbor island folks like that.
Now let me ask you a question. At the normal hospital environment, and then we've got the clinics and the physicians. What's your feelings about the skilled nursing facilities, the SNFs, that maybe can be a middle ground somewhere in between to provide a bridge that maybe not everybody has to go into a hospital environment, they can go into a different environment?
First of all, I really like the model, very much to use that. I would even go one step further than SNFs. I even like the concept of having like LTACs, long-term acute care facilities, which for those of you, again, to throw a healthcare acronym out there, those facilities can bridge even some of the more serious acute stuff that the hospitals, if it's a Medicare patient and they've already been there for a long time and they need more services, but it's just simply way too expensive to be still in Queens, and Queens isn't getting reimbursed any longer. Having LTACs and a whole spectrum is what I kind of would advocate for of healthcare services. Healthcare is, in general,